1973 Berlin. Captured CIA agent John Randolph Bentley is forced into a Soviet mind control program. One of his captors, Petra Andropov, sings a lullaby in his ear, and the whimpering John calms down unnaturally. He has a PTSD episode, and when he awakens, he has killed 3 hostages. After, John is visited by the head of the program, who calls John his cicada, as he will one day awaken and carry out his destiny as the greatest soldier in their cause. Suddenly, John stabs the doctor in the neck, killing him. He then breaks out of the room, taking out a guard. He is still feeling the effects of the drug the doctor gave him, but finds a medical room and injects himself with adrenaline. Also inside the room are his fellow dead CIA agents who didn't make it through the program, but he has no time to grieve as an alarm is sounded. Petra leads men to the room where she sees what looks like John dead from trying to jump out the window. John has actually swapped places with a corpse and is looking for a way out, but Petra, who suspects the deception, returns to the room and they run into each other. John wastes no time and disarms her. The two trade some swift and skillful blows, and in the end Petra has lost her pinky finger and John flashes her with a bright light and escapes to the roof of the building. Soldiers try to capture him there, but he evades, jumping across rooftops and eventually landing in the street and disappearing. Present-day Langley. The CIA gets news that North Korean General Kwon has arrived in London to speak with a former journalist turned cab driver, Tara Coleman, so they send in their agent Matt Edwards. Further information reveals Tara had written an article during her tenure about a Soviet nuke nicknamed Stiletto 6 that was targeted at Washington, D.C., but she was discredited and fired after this. Matt hails Tara's cab and soon informs her about Kwon wanting to speak with her about Stiletto 6. Tara is suspicious, but Matt offers to help her get her reputation back if she helps them with information. Tara agrees, so the agents wire her up and send her in. She is led to a restroom where she meets General Kwon.
I've lost audio.
He tells her the Treadstone has begun and the cicadas will awaken soon. Tara is confused. He then explains that a North Korean group is planning to purchase Stiletto 6 from a Russian named Yuri and wants Tara to recover the codes before they do. He also wants her to rescue his daughter and bring her to an embassy in Paris, as he doesn't think he will be alive long enough. Tara is shocked and doesn't think she is able to do this, but Kwon has no other choice as she is the only one who believed that Stiletto 6 was real. Hearing the word Treadstone, CIA Director Dan clears the room except for Senior Agent Helen, who demands to know how Kwon knows about Treadstone and learns he was part of the program years ago, but thinks he's bluffing. Tara asks Matt about Treadstone, but he refuses to give her details, so she denies discussing anything about Stiletto 6. If the CIA won't trust her, then she refuses to work with them and leaves to look for Kwon's daughter. In North Korea, Soyeon Pak is an ordinary piano teacher. After picking up her son from school, he shows her an American game he found in his locker. Soyeon is shocked as the games are banned, but hides it as her husband greets her. They have guests from his work over, so Soyeon warns her son not to mention the game before entering. Later, she is preparing a meal for her guests when she decides to switch on the game. It begins to play a tune which awakens her. She feels strange, so she rushes to the bathroom to destroy it, and inside she sees a syringe and an address. Meanwhile, in Alaska, oil driller Doug McKenna, along with other drillers, learns that they are out of jobs due to a merger, so he joins his buddies for a last trip into town to grab drinks. At the bar, he meets a woman he swears he has seen before. They begin to talk when a Russian oil driller says something rude to the woman, who then replies. Doug tries to intervene but ends up getting tossed aside, but something seems to snap, and Doug displays refined skills to defeat the man and his buddies in a spectacle. Doug comes to himself and is shocked by what he has done and storms out. He goes for a walk to clear his head when he encounters the same woman from the bar, and she offers to help clean his wound. Back at her office, he explains that he has been feeling strange recently, like there's another him inside just urging to come out. The woman seems intrigued and decides to open a bottle of wine so he can tell her more, but then begins to hum a tune, revealing her task was to wake Doug up. In Russia, an old man receives his new hearing aid. Later, he is listening to music and dancing with his wife when he begins to hear a strange humming. The humming seems to be coming from his shed, but his wife takes his hearing aid to solve the issue. Soyeon is at piano rehearsals with her student when the mother decides to head out for a bit. Soyeon leaves the student to practice, then bursts out and climbs to the roof, where her target address is on a neighboring high-rise. With hesitation, she crawls along a wire and makes it across without detection. She breaks into an apartment and approaches her target, who turns out to be Kwon. He figured she would be the one to kill him, but Soyeon is confused, even realizing she can speak English. Kwon demands to know who woke her, but Soyeon has no clue what he is talking about. Kwon attacks her, and Soyeon fights back, both displaying a high level of skill. She tries injecting him, but fails. But despite this, she manages to strangle him to death. She is unable to retrieve the syringe and returns to her student, still confused. Doug wakes in the snow with a woman's picture, a stash of drugs, and no memory of how he got there. That night, the Russian old man retrieves his hearing aid from his sleeping wife. He follows the strange sound to his barn, where he finds a bunker. He climbs inside and opens a door where he finds the source of the sound. His wife suddenly appears behind him and kills him with a scythe, telling him he should have listened to her. She then turns on the lights to reveal the Stiletto 6 nuclear missile, and it's revealed that this is an aged Petra. A flashback shows how she pursued John, who gets back to his safe house and radios to the CIA that he is coming home. Petra and her men arrive at the safe house and rush up the stairs, but John manages to evade them and steal one of their cars and escape. John returns to the CIA, where he learns that his wife was informed that he passed away per agency protocol. John is confused as he thinks he was only gone a week, but learns he was missing for 9 entire months. He is to be debriefed by the new station chief Kohler and led to a room. There, he tells Kohler about the mission to gather intel and eliminate the doctor, until he was captured and forced to endure grueling torture and cocktails of drugs, which were designed to break him. He recalls Petra, who began to manipulate his mind and replace his thoughts with someone else's. Kohler asks how it made him feel, and John, seemingly lost in thought, explains that he began to feel whole, like he became his true self. This concerns Kohler, who hints that John could have been allowed to escape as a double agent, but John insists that he is fine. Kohler still wants John placed under observation, but John quickly disarms a nearby agent and forces the men to cuff themselves. His friend Frank enters the room, and John disarms him and forces him to let him out of the room. Frank wonders why he's doing this, but John cannot allow himself to be captured again, insisting he isn't a double agent. They enter an elevator, but 2 other CIA agents also enter. The agents get alerted about John, so he knocks both agents out, and also Frank, to cover his involvement. He then walks out the CIA front door and takes off. In the present, Doug wakes from a dream he has about being chained below water and having to battle and kill another man for the key to escape. It could be just a dream, until he sees the chain marks on his ankle. His buddy is still shocked over what happened at the bar, but Doug has no clue. Worse, no one else seemed to have noticed the woman he spoke to. Helen explains to Matt that Cicada is a subprogram of Treadstone, and Kwon was one of Cicada's handlers. Matt recalls the agent Bourne, who had risked his life to destroy Treadstone, and knows that if someone is restarting the program, they must be stopped. He recalls a former Treadstone behavior specialist, Martin Wells, who he thinks could help them identify how the cicadas are waking up. Back in Russia, Petra puts her husband to rest. She tries reporting in after many years, but finds the number is no longer in service, so she sets out. Meanwhile, Tara arrives at Kwon's daughter Jangmi's school when she gets a call from Matt, who has tracked her location. Kwon told her not to trust the CIA, but Matt knows Jangmi is in Paris and warns her that a North Korean kill team has landed there. Tara still refuses his help. She asks for Jangmi at the school, but learns she is off campus. Soyeon brings her son to the park, where he confesses that a man gave him the American game and threatened to take him away from her if he told anyone. A flashback to 1973 shows how Petra was severely scolded for messing the program up and losing John, and comrade Yuri threatens her with prison time before the council. Turns out Petra and Yuri are lovers and played the role to appease their bosses. He notes that she has created a monster in John, but Petra has a plan to bring him back to their side. Yuri warns her to be successful, as he fears he may be the one sent to kill her. In the present, Petra arrives in Moscow and contacts her old KGB handler Max, wondering if they forgot about her. He ignores the question and makes arrangements for them to meet up. Tara tracks Jiang Mi down, and she is reluctant to hear from Tara until she sees her father's pendant. In private, Tara breaks the news of Quan's death and explains her instructions to bring Jiang Mi to the Ecuadorian embassy and begs her to trust him. Doug returns home to America and sits outside his home, wondering how he'll break the news to his wife. He heads inside the dark home, realizing he still has the woman's photo with an address on the back. His wife comes to greet him and they spend the night together. She can see he is preoccupied, and Doug tells her he is out of a job, but she reassures him that things will turn around. Soyeon is at home with her husband when there is a knock at the door. It is Colonel Shin, her husband's boss, and fearing that she has been found out, she grabs and conceals a knife in her clothing before stepping out to greet him. Colonel Shin, however, congratulates her husband for his hard work at the office and has come to take him out to drinks. When they leave, her son reveals that Colonel Shin was the man that gave him the American toy. Matt tracks down Dr. Wells to a bar, who instantly knows Matt is CIA. Matt cuts to the chase and mentions Treadstone and wants to know his role in the cicada program. Wells explains that he developed the protocols to program candidates, which had an 86% success rate. Matt tells him someone is waking the cicadas up, but Wells already knows this. Wells shows him a video of a store shooting, which seems typical at first until Matt realizes the shooter is unnaturally calm and efficient. After this incident, the shooter just sat and waited for the cops to arrest him, and Wells notes the longer a cicada is asleep, the more unpredictable their behavior. Matt wants to interrogate the man and wants Wells to tag along. Doug jumps awake from a bad dream. He still has the woman's picture, and the address on the back leads to a bar. Without much thought, he drives over to the bar with his gun in the truck. That night, Soyeon's husband tells her he has been promoted by Colonel Shin for turning General Kwon over as a traitor. Tara is transporting Jiang Mi and her boyfriend to the embassy when they are cut off by a car. Tara hits the gas, and the car begins to chase them through the city. She almost gets stuck in traffic, but manages to evade once more. The men manage to pull close and shoot Jiang Mi's boyfriend dead, but Tara causes them to crash. Tara and Jiang Mi escape from the overturned car, but the men are still chasing them. They run into a crowded train station and escape into an elevator back to street level, evading gunshots, but eventually managing to lose the men and get to the embassy. A flashback to 1973 shows John re-infiltrating the base in which he was held, looking for evidence to clear his name, only to find it almost vacant. He comes upon a woman who looks like Petra but turns out to be a cleaning lady who explains that the previous tenant moved out yesterday. In the present, Petra returns to her old apartment to see the lights are out. She is fixing her switch when her neighbor offers her a fuse, so Petra invites her in for tea. Everything seems normal as the women talk for a bit, when Petra suddenly attacks her with the teapot. The woman fights back, displaying trained skills, but Petra manages to overpower her and stab her to death. Matt and Wells track down the shooter's apartment. He contacts Ellen, wanting to break in, but Ellen wants him to wait for authorization. She discovered the shooter's name as Haynes and is looking into the victims. His landlord also was taken out after the shooting, and she warns him to be careful. Matt and Wells soon enter the apartment where they see scratch marks all over a room wall and suspect he was losing his mind after being awakened. They get access to visit Haynes in prison, where he tells them he has no idea why he killed the people, but he felt compelled to do it. He thinks they installed something into his mind, and after getting his target, he just felt the need to act. Matt's forceful questions cause him to lose his temper, but Wells offers to help him. Wells then hypnotizes Haynes, bringing him years back. Haynes begins to unravel, telling them a woman made him kill the people. Matt demands to know who, but Haynes's mind breaks, and he has to be taken from the room. Doug and his girlfriend make plans to get drinks, and he suggests they visit the bar from his target's photo. His girl goes to the bathroom, and Doug asks the bartender if he has seen the woman in the photo. The bartender hasn't, but a man at the bar takes notice of Doug and begins following him. Meanwhile, Soyeon's husband tells her about a fancy ball they're attending, and she sees him with a document labeled Stiletto 6. In India, a waitress named Neera Patel receives a text message with a kill order. She finds her target inside a Buddhist temple where a ceremony is taking place. After the ceremony, Neera follows her target through town. She purposely catches his eye twice, then drops her scarf, and when he returns it, she sprays him with a substance, and he soon dies. It turns out he had just inherited the second-largest German pharmaceutical company and was just 25 years old when he died. Helen has found out one of the victims from the store shooting was a former employee of Expo Oil and had reached out to the news regarding labor violations, but was killed before she could reveal anything. They question the link to Treadstone, until Helen adds that Expo Oil's biggest ally is Senator Eamon Ray, who also sat on the Intelligence Committee investigating Treadstone. It could be nothing, but she thinks it warrants a closer look. In 1973, John contacts Frank asking to meet up as he needs help. The two meet discreetly, where Frank reveals the CIA discovered that he had killed 3 CIA assets, and John explains that he was forced to kill them on his final test and insists he isn't a traitor. Frank apologizes, then opens the door to let Kohler in. He believes John was brainwashed. Then he suddenly shoots Frank dead. He thinks the KGB's program was brilliant and wants John to bring Petra to him so he can learn. Present-day Moscow, Max is in his bathroom. When Petra ambushes him, they're wondering why he's sending assassins after her. It turns out to be Yuri after her, as he no longer thinks she serves a purpose, and they have found a way to make money from Stiletto 6. She has guarded the missile for 24 years so that Mother Russia could rise again, but Max tells her that Russia is dead. She demands Yuri's location, then slashes Max's wrist, leaving him to bleed out. Zhang Mi recovers in the embassy. She feels lost now that her boyfriend and father are both dead, but Tara tells her she has to go on living for them. The ambassador Hector reveals later that a rogue North Korean cell had acquired 15 million in Bitcoin to purchase Stiletto 6. However, Kwon found out and hacked their funds, so they had him killed. Hector then reveals a flash drive containing the encryption key to the funds, telling Tara that Kwon's wish was that she purchase Stiletto 6 and ensure the missile is neutralized. She then calls Matt, thanking him for the Paris warning. She has plans to travel to her homeland Ghana so she can be safe enough to publish her story on Stiletto 6. Soyeon drops her son off at his grandmother's when she is approached by a soldier. He knows who she really is and wants to expose Colonel Shin as a traitor. He then shows her the syringe she left behind at Kwon's apartment, revealing he can make it disappear if she swaps Shin's SIM card with a fake one and brings it to him at midnight. If she refuses or is late, her mother and son will be thrown into a labor camp for the rest of their lives. In India, Neera spots 2 cops on the street and dips into a restaurant to hide from them. The cops enter, and she discreetly pulls a gun, but the cops are not there for her. She then gets a text message to board a China flight for her next mission. Soyeon and her husband arrive at the function when Colonel Shin and his wife come to greet them. Shin rests his cell phone on the table and leaves, and Soyeon begins the swap, but drops Shin's SIM card. She attempts to pick it up when her husband's boss, Major Jaeyoon, invites her to play the piano as he has heard about her skills. She has no time to pick the SIM card up and goes to sit around the piano. She begins to play, but she sees the time closing down to midnight and suddenly rushes from the room to the shock of everyone. Doug and his wife, Samantha, return from the bar in good vibes. She goes upstairs to get a shower started when the man from the bar appears inside the home, telling him he botched the Arctic job and needs reprogramming. Doug refuses to go anywhere, so the man decides to kill him. The two begin to fight, trading some heavy blows, seemingly evenly matched, but the man throws Doug down hard. He goes to kill him when Samantha appears with a gun and swiftly kills him. Doug wonders how the man knows her name, but Samantha begins to freak out, claiming she has no idea who the man is. Doug thinks they should call the cops, but Samantha refuses to, claiming they need to figure things out. He thinks the man came for him after what happened in the Arctic and thinks he may have killed someone after meeting this strange woman in a bar. Samantha insists that they talk to no one about his incident or hers, as she cannot lose this relationship. Doug wants to keep her safe, so they decide to get rid of the body together. In North Korea, Soyeon goes on the attack to save her son and mother, taking out 2 soldiers, but the soldier who hired her puts up a fight, managing to overpower Soyeon and beat her down. He almost chokes her out, but Soyeon dazes him with his flashlight, then uses the momentum to hit him with some heavy shots. She is about to choke him out when a car pulls up. It is Colonel Shin, who shows Soyeon the SIM card she left behind at the party. The beaten soldier accuses Shin of killing Kwon and being a traitor, but Colonel Shin shoots him dead. He asks Soyeon the reason for her treachery, but learns that her son and mother were being threatened. Shin demands to know the next time someone approaches her and tells her he is nothing more than a friend. Soyeon doubts she can trust him, but Shin doesn't want trust, he wants obedience. He then hands her her next mission as he needs her to deliver something for him, promising to keep her family safe. Matt and Wells return to visit Haynes in a mental prison. He tells Wells thanks for helping him recover some bits and pieces of memory, and now remembers he had a daughter. Wells offers to help him remember more and puts him in a trance. They want to know the name of the woman that activated him, but Haynes again has a mental break. Wells tries to calm him down, but Haynes snaps. He attacks both men, disarms Matt, and knocks him out before escaping. Doug and Samantha are burying the assassin's body in the woods when Samantha suggests they remove his teeth, feet, and hands to slow down the ID process when he is found. Doug wonders how she knows this, but she claims it's from her experience as an ER nurse. She asks about the woman he met in the Arctic, asking if she said anything weird to him. Doug wonders why she is so interested, but reveals the woman sang some weird nursery rhyme. Samantha is shocked hearing this, but says nothing. Doug brings up the shot she took back at the house, wondering how she was able to do that, but she claims it's just luck. Soyeon returns home with her son. Her husband asks for an explanation of what happened earlier and sees her injuries, but Soyeon begs him to let it go. She tearfully tells him she is not the woman he thinks she is, as she has done terrible things, and promises to tell him everything after she has had some rest. He accepts this and reassures her that he loves her no matter what. Matt soon wakes in the hospital to see Dr. Wells dead beside him. Outside, injured cops are everywhere as Haynes had fought his way out. The cops get his location and move out to hunt him down. He calls Helen, telling her about the situation. He suspects that Haynes will try to track down his daughter Lila, but the cops are headed in the wrong direction. He plans to go after Haynes alone, and Helen is hesitant as they are CIA, but gives Matt the go-ahead as she wants this contained quietly. Doug and Samantha soon return home. While she goes to get washed up, Doug stumbles upon a briefcase containing a file with his name on it. Inside, he sees a blueprint of the entire town. Samantha stumbles upon him, and Doug also sees she has a matching photograph to his target. Samantha then comes clean, telling him she thought Treadstone was over. She explains that while working at a vet hospital, she was selected for a training program at a facility in Virginia, where her assignment was Doug. He doesn't remember, but he was trained and programmed by the CIA to be an asset. Doug is confused and angry hearing this, and cannot believe Samantha had been lying to him all along. In Washington, Dan and Helen secretly meet. He cannot allow Haynes to call any names and needs him contained immediately. Helen accuses him of keeping her in the dark and only bringing her on to take the heat off himself, and Dan admits this, but reminds her they are now in this together. We see Soyeon waking up her son to say goodbye. She is going away for a while and doesn't know when she will be back. He begs her to take him with her, bringing Soyeon to tears, and she reminds him to remember that she loves him. Matt is tracking Haynes through the woods when he comes upon a cop. The cop turns out to be Haynes in disguise, and he holds a gun to Matt. He plans to see his daughter before he dies. Matt asks him to help reveal who is behind the cicadas, and he will ensure he gets to see his daughter. So Haynes hands him his firearm, and they set off together. Samantha explains that the woman's photo with the red circle triggers his subconscious to see her as a problem that needs to be solved, and whether he wants it or not, he will kill the woman. Doug refuses to carry out the mission, but she explains the longer he tries to resist, the more people will come after him to fully awaken him. Doug doubts he is capable of killing the woman, but Samantha knows him as she helped to create him, and the voices he has been hearing in his dreams are hers. Soyeon travels to the address given to her, where she meets an old man. Once she shows him the paper, he immediately closes the shop and removes a box containing cash and documents, telling Soyeon someone is waiting for her. She doesn't know who or where she is going, but another man shows up telling her they are headed to China. Doug and Samantha arrive at the address on the photo. He wonders what made her fall in love with him out of all the assets she worked with, and Samantha reveals that she could always see deep down that he was a good person despite the programming. He is worried about what is to come, but she reassures him that his training will kick in when it's needed and urges him to return to her. Doug steps out and Samantha leaves, and soon a black van pulls up. Inside, men are preparing for a mission. They offer Doug a rifle, but he's good with his pistol, and the guys mock him for this. Doug asks their rules of engagement, but learns they're walking in and putting bodies on the floor.